Welcome back. We do something a little bit different today. Recently stumbled across the Escape from Pripyat mod pack. And let me tell you, I've been enjoying it quite a bit. And while browsing around, found a little lack of install videos out there, so I thought I'd
Привет, брат.
give a crack at it. So without further ado, let's get straight into that. Alrighty. So I'm going to be going off of their installation guide, which I'll have this linked in the description so you can follow along. Step 0, preparations. You're going to make sure, if you're running on Windows 7, you need to install the security update. Most of you are going to probably be on Windows 10. So I'm going to skip this step. Make sure your GPU drivers are up to date. Pretty self-explanatory. Make sure to install the latest version of C++. Most of you will have this. If you don't, go ahead and pause the video. Try to download it. It'll most likely tell you it's already installed and up to date. And then last but not least, you're going to need 7-zip. I would suggest using 7-zip. You can use WinRAR, another program that allows you to extract files. I would highly suggest using 7-zip. Alright, this next step is super important. So whether or not you already have Anomaly installed, which most of you probably will, you need to install a new copy of Anomaly to a folder called EFP. It doesn't have to be called EFP, but I would highly suggest calling the folder EFP, and it needs to be a clean install, clean download. So you can go ahead and head over to this link. I'll also have this linked in the description. This is the main Anomaly download. Go ahead and download this. It's going to take a little while. It's about 15 gigs. So either pause the video or, come on back when you have that downloaded. I went ahead and created a EFP install folder on the drive I'm going to be installing this on. So all these things you're going to need to install will be in your downloads folder. That's fine. Here's going to be your Anomaly install right here, or your download rather. So your first step after you've downloaded Anomaly, you're going to want to create a new folder called EFP in the base directory of your drive. I'll show you that. And then you're going to want to extract the files from the Anomaly download into that folder. And they're saying do not create the Anomaly folder or your EFP folder inside of your downloads, your desktops, documents. You want to create it in the base directory. All right. So let's go ahead and do that now. So if you go to your PC, you'll see all your drives. Wherever you're going to put this, you're going to need about 35 gigs of free space once it's all said and done. So make sure you have that. I'm going to be doing this on E today. I have my existing download on my D drive. I'll just be showing you guys how to do this on my E drive. So we're going to go ahead and create a new folder here. Right click, new folder. Let's go ahead and call it EFP. All right. So you can either go to your downloads where this file is most likely going to be. I've taken everything we need to download and install for this installation and put it in this EFP install folder. Don't worry about these. I will be getting to these later. Right now we're just worried about the Anomaly 15127. If you're downloading this in the future, it might be a different version, but this is the version as of October 23rd. So we're going to go ahead and take this file. Let's cut it out of here. You can right click cut, or you can also hit Control X. We're going to go back to our EFP folder that we just created. Paste this file in here. Let's go to 7-zip and say extract here. So this is going to take everything inside of this zipped Anomaly folder and extract it into our EFP folder here. So this might take a second just because it's, a 16 gig zipped file. So I'll go ahead and skip ahead to whenever this is done. All right, so we've extracted Anomaly into our EFP folder. I'm going to go back to the guide real quick. This is a really important step right here. You need to start the vanilla game in debug mode once from the EFP folder so that your settings or files are created. So you want to go over here inside your EFP folder, go ahead and start Anomaly, click debug mode, and start the game. Alright, and once you've hit the main menu, just go ahead and exit back out to Windows. Cool. So once you've done that, you have your base game installed and ready to get modded. So we're going to move on to the next step. This is going to be in step 2, installing Escape from Pripyat. So we're going to download the mod pack in the installer from the Discord. So right here is why this is probably the greatest mod pack for Stalker Anomaly. Let me show you. Because they have an incredible development team, support system, and just overall keep this thing up to date and are very organized, and that's fantastic. So you're gonna, in the install guide, there's gonna be a Discord link right here. You're gonna open that up, go into the Discord, read the rules, of course, make sure you are respectful, and you know, if you have any questions or anything post installation, come back here and ask your questions in the proper channels. It's all pretty laid out for you. But you're going to want to go ahead and go in the info and links at the top to the download links channel. And you'll see mod packs and download instructions. So here you'll see step 1, you're going to want to download the mod pack from one of these links. I went ahead and used the Google Drive. It was super fast, almost like 30 gigs. Or 30 megs down a second, my normal download, so that was nice. And once you download that, you should see Escape from Pripyat 2.07 or whatever the current version is. I'm assuming they'll keep this link up to date and you'll be downloading the current version. So you're going to want to grab this first link here, which is going to be the main mod pack. And then you're going to move down to the bottom of this post and grab the EFP installer. Once you've grabbed the EFP installer, it's really small. You want to scroll down a little bit more, and you'll see EFP 2.1 fixes right here. So you want to grab all 3 of those, and then that should be what you need in the Discord. We'll come back to this a little later. All right, so you can pause now, let those things download. The Escape from Pripyat is decent sized. It's like 6 gigs, so it might take a little bit. But once you've done that, we are going to take the Escape from Pripyat mod pack file, and we're going to extract it. In this folder, either it can be in your downloads, or if you copied me and made an EFP install folder, that doesn't really matter. So we're going to take this and we're going to 7-zip, and we're going to, this time instead of extracting here, we're going to say extract to Escape from Pripyat. It'll take it, it'll create its own folder and put whatever's in this extracted file inside that folder. All right, so this extracting is just finishing up here. So this should be our mod pack here. So I did forget one thing real quick. Go ahead and download a tool called Mod Organizer from this link right here in the installation guide. This can be super important. We're going to see 2 folders, move content to anomaly folder and move content to MO2 folder. So we're going to open everything inside the move into anomaly folder and move all this stuff into our EFP folder. Just like so. So you see move content into anomaly folder. I'm going to open this, select all this stuff, we'll go ahead and copy it, head back to our install folder here, EFP folder, and go ahead and paste these things in here. Anytime it asks you to replace something, just go ahead and say replace file in the destination. That's going to be overwriting anything that's existing. Okay. And then we're going to do the same thing with our move content into MO2 folder. So let's go and take this, copy all of these items. We're going to head back to our main install folder here. Make sure it's just inside your main install folder called EFP. And let's go ahead and paste these items in here. This may take a second. This is all the mods. This is the bulk of the what we just extracted. So while that's doing its thing, we'll run over our next steps here. So what we just did is we extracted the main mod folder, then we took everything in these 2 folders, move content into anomaly folder and move content in MO2 folder, and then we moved them into our main extracted file there. The next thing we're going to do is what we just downloaded, mod organizer. We're going to do exactly the same thing to that, And then essentially exactly the same thing to our EFP install file as well. So we're going to do those things next once this is done extracting. Right, so this should just be about done here. And we'll go ahead and move on to the next step. We're going to hit replace anytime it asks us. All right, so we have now taken both of the contents of these two folders and moved everything that was inside of them to our main install folder here. So let's head back to the guide real quick and move on to the next step. So we're going to want to open the mod organizer 2.4.2.7 and move all of the stuff inside of that folder into our anomaly folder, our EFP folder, just like we did in the last step. I forgot to mention to download this with the rest of the stuff, but you are going to want to download this. Once again, it's linked right here, right underneath step 2. So we're going to go ahead and say 7-zip. I'm going to go ahead and say extract here. So you should see mod organizer 2.4.2, and then you'll have a bunch of files inside of here. And we're going to want to select all this stuff. You can do that by Control A, selecting everything. We'll say Control C to copy. Head back to EFP here, and you can either hit Control V or right click to paste. And it's going to move all of the content there into your EFP folder. So everything that was in that mod organizer folder is now getting moved into your EFP folder. All right, that is now done. Let's head back to the guide and we'll move on to the next step, which is going to be doing the exact same thing to EFP installer 7. Excuse me, EFP installer. I am messing up right now. So EFP installer, we're going to go ahead and do the same thing. 7-zip, extract, super small file. It should do it about instantly. There'll be a couple subdirectories here. So just head in until you see downloads, EFP temp, mods, tools, and these 2 bat files here. So go ahead and Control A, Control C, where you just copy the content of this entire folder. Head back to EFP, hit Control V, and there we go. Okay, now there's going to be one last thing that we have to do, which is not outlined in the guide here. The directions for it are in the wiki, and it's going to be the update to 2.1. So it's essentially the same exact process that we're going to do, except we're going to use a different profile in mod organizer. But I will show that to you here shortly. So we're going to go back to the things that we downloaded. And earlier when we were in the Discord, when you were downloading the main mod pack, the installer, and you should have grabbed EFP 2.1 fixes. If you didn't, just go ahead and grab it now. It's only a megabyte. So let's go to either our downloads folder or where you have all of your downloaded things located. And you should see EFP 2.1 fixes. Let's go ahead and extract this to its own directory. EFP 2.1 fixes, and then take these 2 folders, mods and profiles, go ahead and copy them, and back to your main install folder, and go ahead and paste them in here. Go ahead and say replace files in the destination, and you should be good to go right there. Okay, and that should be, oh, we almost missed a crucial step. So with the EFP installer that we put in there, there's a important mod that was not allowed to be included in the mod pack, so they created bat files for you to download it for you. So our next step is going to be go ahead and go back to our EFP file, and we're going to scroll down until we see EFP mod downloader right here. So go ahead and find this file, EFP mod downloader, double click it, you will see this bat file come up, and it'll say press any key to continue. So go ahead and do that. Spacebar, and what that's going to do is it's going to direct you to a mod database website, and then it is going to start downloading that for you. You should see 1.56 Grok Ballistics Overhaul downloaded. All right, and then we're going to go back to our guide real quick. So we've run that bat file. After the download finishes, you want to move that entire mod zip file into a folder called downloads inside your EFP folder. So let's go ahead and do that now. So we're inside our EFP folder here. Here's our folder called downloads. We're going to go find what we just downloaded in our download folder on our computer, or wherever your downloads are located at. It's most likely going to be in your downloads. So we're going to take this, we're going to cut it, Control X or right click to cut. We have this file cut. We're going to go back to our EFP folder, our main install folder, locate the downloads folder, and stick it in here. This is slightly confusing, I understand that, but you're taking a file you just downloaded and moving it into a download folder inside your main install folder here. All right, let's head back to the guide. Now we're going to run a bat called EFP mod installer, and that's going to install this file for us. So let's go back to our main install folder here. We're going to scroll down until we see EFP mod installer right here. Double click to run this. All right, so it's going to ask us to press any key to continue. Let me move this over for you so you can see it. Right here, it's verified that it found the file for us. Everything goes okay. It's extracted it, and we can press any key to exit now. This is what you should see when you run mod installer, EFP mod installer bat. If you don't see this, it means you didn't put your downloaded file in the right spot. So we're going to press any key to continue, and that step is now done. Okay, I'm going to X out of this web page real quick. Let's go ahead and head back to our guide real quick. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is set up mod organizer. To start EFP, you'll always want to use the mod organizer exe. It's also called MO2. It's what loads all your mods at the beginning of the game. If you're running Windows Insider mode, download this tweak, place the files inside your mod, your EFP folder. I've never seen anyone using Windows Insider's mode, but it's like, this is why this development team is great. They've thought of everything. If you are using Windows Insider mode, download this, copy all the files inside of it, do the same exact things we just did, place the files inside of this download into your main install folder. Okay. So our next step is we're going to open mod organizer. There's going to be a pop-up window. It says it's going to ask us to create a portable instance. We're going to browse. We're going to find our EFP install folder. We're going to click next. It'll ask you to connect your Nexus account. Ignore that. Finish, and then we're going to set our profile. So let's go ahead and do that stuff now. So inside your main install folder, you will see mod organizer here. Let's double click and run this. Okay. So it's going to ask you to create a new instance. You want to say next. You're going to add the second option here, create a portable instance. And then we're going to look for our install folder. So we're going to browse, and you're going to go to, is this all like this? One moment, please. You're going to go to your, wherever your install folder is. Ours is on our storage EFP. I'm just going to select this main folder, okay? So you don't want to go any farther than your main folder here. So we're going to say select, and then next. We're going to not worry about our linked Nexus account, like we said. Next. Stalker Anomaly, game location EFP, portable instance. All that's looking good. Let's go ahead and finish that up. So it's basically saying that no default mod profile has been found, and it wants us to use EFP 2.0, which is great. We are going to change that, but it's a good sign. It's going to ask you if you want to use the tutorial. For this purpose, we're going to say no. Okay. So here is mod organizer. Close this down just a bit so you can see everything. All right. So this is the program you are going to launch EFP from. It might look a little daunting at first if you've never seen this, but trust me, everything is okay. The first step is you're going to want to see this profiles tab at the top. Grab this drag down and hit EFP 2.1. Okay. This is going to be the update you just installed as well. So over here on the left, you can scroll down, you'll see all of your mods that are installed to your game currently. So at the bottom here, you see any mods added by you. Don't worry about that. That was stuff changed by the update. Do not touch any of that. You'll see old or removed mods. Don't worry about those. Do not touch any of those. Optional included voices. If you wish, you can select these. I'm going to leave them alone for right now. And then also there's optional included mods. I'm not sure what's going on with Brighter Aggressor Reshade. Don't ask me. But personally, for my run through, I have Restore Health Stamina bars. main menu music selected, and the EFP HD icon selected. So we'll go ahead and do that now, just so I can show you guys. So if you did want to use those, just go ahead and click the checkbox next to them. And then your next step is going to be make sure this is on Anomaly Launcher. It should be. And then you can go ahead and click Run. All right. So with that, you've pretty much finished installing EFP. We'll go ahead and start the game now, and I'll go through a few settings and minor tweaks you can do, and we'll finish out the rest of this install guide. Okay, so once you see it hit run, you should see the Stalker Anomaly launcher pop up here. If you've never seen this before or haven't played Stalker, that'd be kind of weird if you're installing a mod pack, but I'll go ahead and let you guys know. Most you're going to want to be on DirectX 11 and have support for AVX CPUs enabled unless your computer is ancient. Personally, I play on Shadow Map 1536 instead of the default of 2048. I didn't notice much of a difference, and it has a bit of an performance increase. Make sure debug mode is not enabled, and then I go ahead and select prefetch sounds based on my personal preferences. It's going to take a little while to load, little while longer to load because it's loading all the sounds in while the game's loading, but it'll help increase performance a bit. And then you want to go ahead and select delete shader cache. That's a really good habit to get into. Every time you launch the game, make sure you select delete shader cache. So I'm going to go ahead and launch a Stalker Anomaly now, and we'll get into some settings. One final thing I forgot to mention. In your EFP folder, you're always going to want to start your game from this mod organizer exe right here. So just for ease of access, go ahead and right click. Can't see it. Go ahead and right click, say send to desktop create shortcut. You have a mod organizer shortcut here. I went ahead and went down to properties all the way at the very bottom, and they were kind enough to supply you with an icon. You can go ahead and hit change icon here. Go ahead and browse. Find your EFP folder, and they have an icon here they supplied with the mod pack. So I set mine to that, hit apply. You go ahead and change your name to EFP Anomaly, and that's where you'll start your game from here. So once you launch this, it'll launch your mod organizer, and then you hit run in the top right hand corner right here. All right, once you have all that done, you should be able to load up Stalker Escape from Pripyat from the first time, and you should see this in the upper right hand corner of your screen, letting you know that you've done it correctly. So now we're just going to go over a few of the settings in game. Some of them are recommended by EFP themselves, and some of them are my personal visual settings. And a disclaimer here is if you're running on either a nicer computer than I am or a lower end computer, some of the settings may vary depending on your personal specs. So for reference, I have an i7 770K and a 1070 NVIDIA graphics card with 16 gigabytes of RAM. So let's get into it. So we'll start with the visual and the basics tab. You're going to want to stay with DirectX 11. Your resolution, most people are playing in 1080, and it's recommended to stay with 16:9. FOV can be pretty much anything you want from 70 to 80, but I recommend staying in between 70 and 80, and your HUD FOV needs to be 0.6. Screen mode can either be full screen or borderless, although full screen will get you a little bit better performance. Moving on to the advanced tab here. Stalkers can use headlamps at night. I would keep this option enabled. Has a slight performance drawback, but it's very immersive. Don't check vertical sync or FPS limiters. Rendering distance is very machine specific depending on your specs, how much you can handle. I find this to be just about right for everywhere for me without noticing too much frame stuttering. I leave most of my textures details alone. These are all at max. Anisotropic filtering is at max. Anti-aliasing is at 2x. SMA is at very high. I have these three enabled. Grass is also another big performance hitter. So if you're noticing you have any problems with frames, try lowering your grass density as well as your render distance up here. My grass density is about 60% with 110 render distance and size of 1, leaving grass shadows on. Lighting, this should all pretty much be about default. Light distance full, shadow distance is full, actor shadows are on. Actually, I turned specular gloss factor all the way up. Didn't notice a performance increase, and it'll give stuff while it's raining a little bit more sheen. Sun rays are volumetric. Quality is high on the sun ray shadows. Intensity, I left all this stuff alone. SSAO should be off. There's occlusion within the reshade. So the reshade that's being used already has this, so you're going to turn it off by default. Volumetric light is on. Soft water, soft particles are on. Recommended keeping depth of field and motion blur off. And wet surfaces and volumetric smoke are going to stay on as well. Now moving on to the UI and HUD tab. I have show crosshairs enabled. Show HUD. You're going to want to show this in order to get the bleed factor on the edges of your screen. Most of the other HUD things are disabled within EFP. Make sure your iron sight factor is at 1. And I turned my head bob down to 0.3 just because I felt like the head bob was a little excessive. So that may help out there. All right, moving on to player. You want to check item usage animation, item swap animation, enhanced recoil effects here. And then mask overlay is personal preference. It can have a slight performance increase, or sorry, decrease, but that's pretty much personal preference. Don't need to mess with anything in weather and night. Let's go to sounds. For some reason, my menu music keeps getting defaulted off. I'm going to leave it off for now for the sake of the video, but that would be the menu music optional mod we enabled. You can turn that up there. Your main volume, nothing really mess around in here. Controls, I turned my sense way down, as well as you can toggle whether you want to crouch, toggle key whether you want your crouch to be toggle or walking, sprinting, leaning, any of those things. Keybinds are all personal preference. I'll let you guys figure that out. A few notes in here though. Under unjam weapon, this is added in EFP. You're going to want to assign this a key. In this mod pack's weapons will jam, so you'll need to press this to unjam them. As well as check ammo here. Make sure you set that to something. And then a side note, the underbarrel grenade launchers, if you're using modded guns from boomsticks and sharpsticks, if you want to switch your sight, say you have like a canted red dot and an ACOG, the underbarrel grenade launcher keybind is what controls that. All right. Moving on to the gameplay tab under general, go ahead and turn on hardcore aim if you're not scared. And then under the stealth kills, go ahead and turn on enable silent kills and allow melee weapons. All melee weapons are valid for silent kills. All right, and then fast travel visited only. And that should be it there. And now we're going to move on to the zone under general, mutant population and stalker population factor. Both of these are going to depend heavily on your machine and what they can handle. Leave them at 1. See if it runs well. If it does, you can turn them up if you wish. It's going to increase the population of mutants and stalkers around the zone. And then make sure you put your offline combat to smart terrain only. All right, and then under the zone, we're also going to go to events, missions, warnings, sirens only. And as well, under warfare, hit this preset right here, A-Life Overhaul. Go ahead and click that. And then after you've clicked A-Life Overhaul, Go ahead and scroll almost all the way down to the bottom. You'll say enable mutant offline combat. Unclick this. All right, so that should be everything in our settings menu. Basically, except here, if you want to put in an auto save, go for it. If you forget to save like me, you know, that might not be a bad idea. You can put in the number of minutes you wish it to auto save by. All right, so let's go back out to the main screen again, and we'll go into our mod configuration menu. This is a custom menu that mods can put their own settings within. Pretty useful. We just have a few things to change in here. So under sorting plus, go ahead and scroll down and select use sorting plus LTX here. It's going to use the preset sorting plus setup, and this is a mod that affects how your inventory is sorted. If you don't like the way your inventory is sorted, this is the menu you're going to want to come to tweak settings around with that. So, all right. Now we have a few more things to change, but they have to be done in game. So you guys would be presumably be starting a new game. I'm going to go to my last save, and I'll show you the settings in game that we can change. They have to do with the active crosshair mod and a difficulty in your progression difficulty settings. Both are really easy to get to. I'll go ahead and show you those real quick. All right, so now we're in game. We are going to go ahead and get into those settings that we need to change while we're in game here. So go ahead and hit escape, go to settings. Under visual, you'll see ascendant crosshairs. I personally don't like the ascendant crosshair thing mod, so I went ahead and just disabled them by deselecting this box. And if you would like to use them, it seems like pretty cool. I just don't prefer them, so I disabled them, and this is how you can mess around with the crosshairs. So if you load in and notice your crosshairs are different, escape, settings, visual, ascending crosshairs. And the last thing is going to be, we need to go to gameplay, progression difficulty, and then you're going to want to scroll down and you'll see a full percentage system for parts. This is checked by default. It needs to be unchecked. And any other settings after that are going to be pretty much personal preference. All right, so our last and final step here is we're going to need to set some keybinds for a few mods that don't give us the ability to set those keybinds in game. So we're going to need to go into a few files and change a few things in some lines of code. It's really easy. I'll walk you guys through it. So let's go ahead and get into that real quick. So the first thing you're going to need to do is open up your mod organizer, and you'll see here at the bottom this filters tab. It's going to allow you to search for any mods that are in your mod list, essentially. So if we look at our walkthrough right here, our first mod we're going to need to set is called Quick Melee Edit. So we're going to go ahead and paste that in here, and then you'll see Quick Melee Edit. It'll probably pop up for you. It might be under a drop-down menu, so if you don't see it right at first in a category, hit the drop-down menu. You'll see it there. So you want to select this mod. Make sure you don't deselect it here. Just select it so it's highlighted blue. Right-click and say Open in Explorer. So once we've done that, it'll bring us to the file that this mod is within. So let's go ahead and check back at our guide. Now, the actual script we're looking for is called quickdraw.script. So let's go ahead and find that. Okay, here it is. So we're going to go ahead and edit it with Notepad. So that once you open up this mod, it'll just be a few directories and you'll see it. You can right click it and say open with and go to normal Notepad. Or if you have Notepad++, I'm going to use Notepad++, just right click, edit with Notepad++. So now I'm already to the spot that we need to be at. So say we're at line 1 here, and what it's going to try to tell us to do is we need to find part of this code in this file that says if key equals 13. So we're going to copy this, we're going to go back to our Notepad++, and we're going to go ahead and try to find if key equals 13. So mine has already been changed here, as you can see. So I wasn't going to be able to find that, but if you guys put in if key equals 13, you'll most definitely be able to find this. So once you've located this line 47, just hold on to that. We're going to go back to our guide, and read a little bit. So if it says if key equals 13, the number 13 is a corresponding key code. So what we're going to do is we're going to change this 13 to another number that corresponds with the key that we want. And those keys are located here in this index. So let's go ahead and open this up. And you can see these decimal keys are all, tied to a key on the keyboard here. So if we look, 13 would have been the equals right next to your backslash, which is not exactly what we want for that. Quick melee will make it a little easier. So I personally have mine set to V, which is going to be right here, 47. So figure out what key you want it to be set to, find that number, and then, oops, sorry. Let's come back over here and on line 47 in our quick draw.scripts here, we're going to change. So I'll just go ahead and do it with you guys. So it will look like this, 13, and you're going to take this and change it to 47. Okay. And then what you're going to do is save this and you're good to go. So you can go ahead and close out of this, and we're going to do this process a total of 3 times. And we just did one of them. It's not super hard. So let's go back to our walkthrough here. The next mod we're going to look up is Scream at Them Bass. So let's take this name, copy it, paste it into this filters tab right here, find the mod, right click, open and explore. Let's reference back to our thing here. We're looking for screamback.scripts. Okay. So let's open this up and we're going to go game data, scripts, screamback.scripts. You can open this up at either Notepad or Notepad++. Open it up here and let's figure out what we're looking for. We're looking for a line that starts with if dik equals dik keys.dikm. So let's see if we can find that. It happens to be on the second line, super easy to find. Mine's slightly different because it's already been changed. But let's go ahead and look at the dik keys. They're slightly different than the numerical ones we just looked at. So here are dik keys right here. And you'll notice that the majority of the keys are named exactly what they are. So I personally have my Scream at Them bound to J. So go ahead and pick whatever one you want here. Whatever key you would like it to be, you can look through all these. And you're going to want to go ahead and find this row right here where it says dik, then an underscore. Copy this. Come back to line 2 in our screamback.scripts. And this will say right here, it will say M, just like that. And then you want to take this part that's after the period and before the space and just replace that with whatever you had. Or if you're staying with a letter on the keyboard, you can just change that letter to whatever letter it is at the end of dik there. Make sure it's capital. And then we're going to go ahead and save this. And you should be good to go. And let's move on to the last one. So the last one is going to be minimap toggle. Excuse me. We're going to go ahead and copy this. Put minimap toggle in our filters. Found it here. Open and explore. We're looking for a script called minimap toggle.scripts. Pretty self-explanatory. So let's go ahead and get into our game data folder, scripts, minimap toggle scripts. I'm going to go ahead and edit it with Notepad++. And I'll tell you guys now it's on line 9. And then it's going to be default at slash. So it's going to look by default, it's going to say if keys equals dik keys, dik slash. So I changed mine to M. Once again, reference the same dik keys thing from before. And go ahead and just change the end of this. Don't take out the parentheses either to whatever you'd like it to be. So it should say dik underscore keys dot dik underscore whatever the button you were putting there. I put mine to M. Okay, so with that said, that's going to end up the walking us through the actual tutorial part. There's a few more notes they have here. If you don't like the aggressor grass or ground, what you can do is you can just come into your filters, type aggressor, it just comes up with AG, and you can just disable these ground and grass mods here. Personally, I wouldn't do it because I think they look great. If you don't want the reshade, go into the bin folder and delete the D3, D9 DLL and DXGI DLL. performance tweaks, go to the guide, and make sure you read the guide to features. It's going to tell you some of the things in the game. I'm not going to go over this, but it's going to tell you how the health system works, how the mag system works, and a couple other important things. So last but not least, I'm going to jump back in game. I'm going to show you guys my reshade settings, and then we're going to make sure these keybinds we set up work, and that'll do it. You may notice my game looks slightly different than the yours does once you load up into it, and that's going to be because of some reshade settings and some basic light settings. So if you look at your arrow keys and look up, there'll be a home key right above end. Press that. The only reason I tell you that is because a lot of people don't know what the home key is. Kind of a weird, not used by much. So on the base aggressor reshade that's on here, you will have watchdogs, tone mapping, and LUT checked on both of these. So it's going to look like this, maybe slightly different. So what I did is I unchecked LUT and I unchecked watchdogs tone mapping. And then if you press, this guy is really getting down over here. If you go ahead and press escape and go to your settings, under visual basic, you'll see this basic light settings. You're going to open that up. I have my gamma turned to 1.2, my color saturation at 0.8, and my brightness is at 1.2. So that's the extent of the visual changes I've done. You get it to look like this. And with that, man, that should be everything you guys need to know from start to finish, getting this installed and then getting your reshader set up. I hope you enjoy this mod. It's a pretty great time, and yeah, have fun.